Hello, this is Dale Matthews. This is Inside News. I didn't get my cue from Mike, but I'm assuming that we're on the air now. Are we on the air now, Mike?
Yes, we are. I'm sorry for dropping the ball there, Dale.
That's okay. There's no bank.
Yes. From what is written on the screen, it's clear that we didn't even talk about what the topic of tonight's show is, but just from that alone, we could begin railing, and I'm sure there's video accompaniment as well. So
right, this is an exact quote, and I'll turn here so that I can see this. We don't even look at the capital costs. We don't even look at the capital costs. Don't ask us about such things. What are our needs, our wants, and our desires?
Yeah, that's what's important.
That's council, yes. I've always been somewhat in awe, and you're in the audience. Maybe you're one of these people. I'm in awe of people that go to the supermarket and just buy whatever they want, whatever they desire. They just go up and down the aisles and they fill it up and they just get anything that they want. I've never been able to do that. I'm always like, well, shall I get powdered eggs or shall I get and so all the city council, basically what they're saying here is that, they're not going to worry about what the cost is because they're not paying it out of their pocket. You're paying it and for some changes that they're making. And all that's important are their wants, needs, and desires.
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay, so we're going to start with the idea. I'm going to roll back the tape a little bit and show you an excerpt from a meeting where Cheryl Walker and Keith Eck were there at a meeting of the Grants Pass City Council, and Dennis Roller, who used to be in charge of the newspaper here locally, was explaining to them that it really would be helpful if there was some way that you can combine the county that's got property and combine the city that's just awash in cash. So much cash that it's what was the word to use? It's embarrassing. It's, well, you'll see. Okay, here's what he had to say. So much cash that it's, here's what he has to say.
Expanding that sewage plant out there, North Valley. I don't know where you're at in that, but that's the big problem out in a lot of the county. It's got the flat land more than we have in the city. But then you don't have money to expand, like, say, the infrastructure. And we are limited in how much we can spend outside the city to try to expand anything or to help anywhere because we've got obligations to our own constituents. And so, some of those jobs might go to Grants Pass residents, but on the other hand, we can't just be spending millions and millions and millions out there and not be able to show some kind of return. So we're kind of stuck one person's got the land but not the money, and we've got the money but not the land, and so it's kind of awkward.
It's kind of awkward, yep.
Well, he seemed to be mentioning that there was some sort of limitation on the amount of money that they could spend without showing a return. I'd be interested in knowing. I'd be interested in knowing what the return is that they're, what sort of, have they, when they've laid out all this stuff, did they talk about the return on their investment at all during last night's show there? I didn't get to see it yet. This will be my first peek.
We're playing back footage from last night's meeting of the Grants Pass City Council. And the reason we're playing back city video is that their audio is going to be so much better than ours. And we'd love to be able to hook in with their audio, but of course they won't let us do that because then we could give you, pristine views of things. So we needed to wait till they posted it so that we could then break it up into little bits, unless you want to watch a 2-hour show, which it seems that way sometimes. And so we'll play back for you what we think are the most important parts when they were discussing a new plan that they have. You saw the article in the Courier, Mike. What did that say about what the cost was?
Which article are you referring to now? Because I may not have.
the meeting that they had last night, the Grants Pass City Council, where they were talking about spending money not for the water plant. That's a completely different thing.
No.
The Courier said something about $300 million spread out over maybe 30 years. Not counting a brand
that's only $100 million per decade. No big deal. That's only $10 million a year, Dale. I mean, really, what's your problem?
Right.
$10 million a year? I mean, that's the pocket change, chicken scratch.
So I'm going to start with this quote over my shoulder here from Aaron Kubik, who is the Grants Pass City manager. It's slightly out of order, but I think that it will explain to you how they're going about this process. Here's Aaron Kubik, the Grants Pass City manager.
You go through a strategic planning process and you list a number of different objectives and tasks that you'd like to accomplish.
Now, the way that worked before, viewers of the show know this, all the city councilors got together and they filled out these little sticky notes, and I think that's the way they did it, and they put it on a big sheet, and everyone wrote down their favorite projects to do. Unfortunately, what they didn't do is they didn't say, well, 7 people are in favor of this and 1 person's in favor of that, or, they didn't do it that way. So all of them got considered. So if one person puts up 15 things that only they are interested in, they count for just as much as the people who have the ideas that have 7 people backing them up.
Mm-hmm. Kind
of not a very smart process. But so what he's talking about is when they were going through the strategic planning process, I'm going to restart that. When they're going through the strategic planning process, that they're going through right now is somewhat similar to that. Let's have Aaron Kubik explain it again.
You go through a strategic planning process and you list a number of different objectives and tasks that you'd like to accomplish. We then go through a budget process where you allocate those resources to your strategic plan. And we had over 200 different tasks and actions that came out of strategic planning, but we were only able to fund about 140 different tasks and objectives. Doesn't mean we stopped at the strategic planning level and said, okay, how much money do we have? The way we strategic plan is we strategic plan what are our needs, wants, and desires. We don't even look at the capital costs and how that affects. We want to know where we're going and where we need to go.
Okay.
So
sounds logical.
Look at what it's going to cost. That's just a different way of deciding how to do things than I do at my house and maybe how you do at your house. You might decide, well, okay, I want to do a grand tour of the entire world. I don't care how much it costs. I really have a desire to do that. I would approach it by saying, do I have enough to get to Medford? Okay, so that's just me. Okay, so we're going to get a chance to hear a little bit about their deliberation process, and we'll be more specific. We'll let them be more specific about the projects that we're talking about and the cost. They will do a little talking about cost.
At this time, I will open the public hearing to consider an ordinance adopting Addendum 2 to the public facilities element of the comprehensive plan. We will begin the hearing with a staff report followed by public comment, and then the matter will be discussed and acted upon by the council. Is there anyone present who wishes to challenge the authority of the council to consider this matter?
How about you, Mike? Do you want to challenge their ability to consider this matter? Oh, Mike's not there. Okay, I'm going to set this one out and not challenge their ability, not challenge their reasoning to be making a decision on this matter. And then now that Mike's back with us, Mike probably agrees with that. Correct, Mike?
I absolutely do, even though I didn't hear anything, and that's a very dangerous thing to do, to agree with something I haven't heard. I knew that something was sucking bandwidth in the other room, and I had to run in there and go turn it off real quick, and because I was getting from you. So,
sorry about that. I'll try to in a more smooth basis. Okay.
Yes, that'd be great.
So now let's take a look at the cost implications, and we'll keep this up, and they'll speak about it, but we'll also read it carefully, all of us together.
Under cost implications, we have
Okay, now let's take a look at these cost implications. Wastewater collection system, sewer system, $108.7 million.
You know what?
Water distribution system, $79.1 million. Stormwater system, $46.5 million. Now, when you total those all up, although there's sure been a lot of numbers thrown around, including at this meeting and by the Daily Courier, that is a grand total of $234.3 million. $234,300,000. I could probably just get by in the 300,000, Mike.
Yeah. The thing that's bothersome to me about this is that I believe that a lot of this is being foisted upon us by restrictions coming down from the state or federal government. And, they don't care at all about our economy. It's just, you got to do this. So just do it. I don't care what your problems are. Just do what I told you to do. Or what? What are you going to do to us if we don't do your stupid plan that's going to bankrupt us? What are you going to do to us? You're going to exile us? You're going to kick us out of the county? Close the whole county off?
A lot like when you're going to have a big concert, let's say, and you've got a certain number of people. After a certain number of people, you're supposed to have porta potties or number of porta potties, and that's supposed to be for health reasons. On the Boatnik parade, they're prohibited from having more than 100 entries. They're prohibited from having more than 100 entries. And that's why entry number 13, let's say, is 13A, B, C, D, E, F. Well, there's only 100. There's always exactly 100. It's just that within those 100, you might have 6, 7, or 10 under number 13.
Okay.
Yeah, sweet. So if the state has rules, in listening to the city council, Grants Pass City Council, they said once they get to the 35,000 level of expansion, it's all about expansion again, that once they're there, then they're supposed to have some kind of plan for dealing with stormwater runoff. The obvious thing that could be
where is the stormwater runoff going now? Doesn't it go to the Rogue River?
Yeah, but they're supposed to have some kind of plan of how to deal with that.
Treat it,
yes. And those kinds of things. And to make sure that it's not
How did we get by? How did we get by? For hundreds of years, we've gotten by with, running stormwater drains into the. What is going on? What is the damage that we're doing to the environment that rationalizes damaging us in this way? 230-something million, and that's not even taking into consideration the revamping of the water treatment plant.
No, it's not taking that into account. And the other thing is, if you're Mike's married, and so if you're going to talk with your wife about the number of children that you want, at some point you might want to talk about, well, sure, it would be great to have a baseball team, but I'm not sure that we can afford that. And think if you've got 12 children, that you're not going to be able to pull them all in one van. Right? And even putting them in 2 vans, each with the driver, that's pretty crowded. So who would be the third driver if you needed a third van? And so what you might want to do is you might want to consider some kind of thinking ahead before you have unbridled growth. And that's what's happening with the Grants Pass City Council. Once they get up to a certain level, well, then we need a new this, and we need that, and we need this other thing. Hey, wait, you ever consider not growing?
Yeah, well, okay, you're looking at it from that point of view. I'm not. When you look at it from that point of view, you're accepting that what they're asking for is rational. I think it's insane.
No, I think we control that here. I'm about local control. If you can't get Salem to do something smart, if you can't get the United States government to do something smart, what, are you kidding me? Then can you have local control? Just a little bit of control over yourself, you know, and this thing about the children, there's a way you can control that. The guys can control that, right? Snip, snip. Yes, and then you don't have a family of 20. You don't have the Octomom or whatever. You can decide to limit growth because we can't afford it right now. But the truth is, the city council feels that they can approve it right now.
Well, wait just a minute. Now you're getting into a whole nother field. What are you gonna tell people? Hey, now I know you might be planning on having a family. All right, that's not gonna happen. We have a one-child maximum.
No, I don't mean it's China. No, that's so is a bad analogy. But my point is, if you want to limit growth, then limit growth. But they don't want to limit growth.
Well, listen, I don't think we necessarily need to limit growth either. We just have to live in a sane world, for God's sakes. I mean, really. And we know that these numbers are nowhere near what is actually required for this. And I'm not shooting low. I'm saying they're overshooting it by a long shot. You know darn well that they've padded these quite a bit, and that if a private contractor was re-engineering Grants Pass for his own for his own purposes, it wouldn't be costing that amount.
No.
It wouldn't be costing that amount at all. And they would accomplish the same thing. And listen, this is why I got to tell you, when you start talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, now it's time to really start getting serious. Are you paying attention? Right now, I think they just feel like they understand people are not paying attention. Now is the perfect time to do this. Now, let's talk about this. If you're talking about $300 million over 30 years, and all we're talking about is the repayment of principal over that time. Now, anyone who has a mortgage understands what an amortization table is. Okay, an amortization table shows you that over a 30-year mortgage, you're paying back, maybe 2.5 times what the actual principal is. So we're going to be paying back better part of $750 million on this thing here. That's insanity. So let's just say that we're talking about principal. That's $10 million a year. They were hoping to get $8 million from the sales tax. Where do you think this money is going to come from? If you live in the city and you're paying taxes, get ready to pay a lot more.
Well, what they're going to do is they're going to reach out to companies that would like to expand or would like to come to our area, and they're going to lay a SDC. Well, it sounds like a sexual disease, but it's not. They're going to lay a system development charge on them that's going to be choking them.
Yeah, well, how is this reaching out to other companies to come here to Grants Pass been working so far? I mean, inviting them here to this lawless hellhole.
Oh, yeah, there's that too, right?
That's not working.
Just for clarity purposes, I just want to clarify, as Cheryl Walker always says, let's take a look here at that same chart that does indicate how much of each of these can go to lifting up the SDCs to higher levels. Just a moment.
It's water collection.
Okay, so here we go. If you look carefully here, it might be hard to see, but we'll read it to you. The wastewater collection system, they need $109 million. Approximately $53 million of that would be put into raising system development charges. Water distribution system, $79 million, approximately $53 million could be added to the SDCs. And they don't want to say how much it would be for the stormwater system. So we're talking about $106 million approximately boost in the SDCs.
Okay.
Lovely.
Listen, you heard what I said before about how it would be about $10 million a year and likely closer to, 15 or 20 million, when you're talking about reality over a 30-year period.
Yes.
If you're talking about getting this back solely through SDCs, nobody is going to move here.
Yeah.
No one is going to move here because their share of that burden is massive.
Yes.
Can we have some numbers here? Like if I'm going to move here with such and such sized company and plunk down in the city of Grants Pass, what's that going to cost me?
So what's the lesson that we can learn from Silicon Valley? Because we've seen this happen many times. What'll happen is an entrepreneur comes in and comes up with a really terrific idea, and they blow out and they achieve their 5-year goal in 6 months. The problem is that they can't keep up with the demand. The people are wearing out. The IT department is working until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. The shipments aren't going where they're supposed to go. They've grown too fast. And it's very difficult for the founders with this wonderful idea, and it looks terrific. It's difficult for them to keep up with it because they're not managing their growth.
Yeah, I see where you're getting at there. I don't like that. And listen, I understand that is one way of doing it. I think it's the wrong way of doing it. Growth is what we do in this country. Okay, if you're not growing, you're atrophying. In my personal.
Wait a minute. Look at me. Okay, I'm a thin guy. If I start eating a lot more food, if I could eat any more than I am now, at some point I'm going to want to manage my growth, right? I mean, I don't want to balloon out to here.
Yes, but you're talking about, I'm not quite sure what you're talking about. You might be talking about, managing your, if you eat too much like I do, you might be thinking that you should eat less because otherwise it's going to kill your body. I understand that, but that's not what we're talking about in a situation with a city like this. I mean, what is killing the city is the massive sucking, parasite of city government and the burdens that they're throwing on us. And listen, the burdens that they're going to throw on us have very little to do with the actual cost of doing those things were you to do them prudently. They are the cost of paying your friend who you're going to pay a hell of a lot more than the job is worth. That is what that cost is. So I think that you can lump that in as the parasitical cost of government.
The parasitical cost of government. I love that, Mike. That's really good. Here's your quote of the day.
There you have it. Well, it's a real thing because you know what, government, these are people who don't do real stuff for a living. They don't work in businesses the same way and with the same ethic that someone who, launches a business with their own money and, fights hard to keep it afloat. These people have none of those problems. Okay.
Now, Mike's talking about the staff mainly because Grants Pass City councilors are volunteers that are out there in the business world, but we've all seen the effect of them getting together, congratulating each other, patting each other on the back, kissing each other, kissing themselves, and then they lose touch with the regular folks who are out here.
I think what happens in many cases, if you come in there, even from out of the business world, and you sit on the city council for a while and you watch stuff go on, you realize you've been in the wrong business for many years. And so, and sometimes you decide, hey, I'm going to change my line of work here.
Well, that's why you end up with a quote like this. Or we're not even going to consider the capital costs. We just want to know what are our desires. What do you desire, Mike? We've got all the money in the world here, but if we don't have enough, we'll just raise the SDCs, which will, put the kibosh on future growth. But, that's not really the point, is it?
Listen, why don't we just start printing our own currency and that'll just solve the problem?
When I was at the weekly business session yesterday, sitting there, and most of the time I kind of sit here like this, and I'm listening to what they're saying, and I'm digesting what they're saying. And then every once in a while, they'll say something, and I'll look at them like, what? And that happened yesterday with Simon Hare. And he saw that I was looking, because I was the only person that went, what? You know, and he's now he's talking just to me. And what he's saying, I think that we need to look at these fees, because I think that we're charging too much given the service that we're putting out there. Our fees are probably too high. Oh, there's an interesting quote, because you wait long enough and Simon will argue against himself. And many times we've brought up, what are you doing to earn this money? Thank you, Simon Hare, for a moment of lucidity. Not going to last very long, but it was nice to hear that. Okay, so
just out of curiosity, in reference to what?
no, I'm sorry you asked me that, because I can't remember what it was about. But no, it's not going to come to me. But I've got the quote, and I've got the video.
I just want to know what I'm paying too much for it. That's all.
Oh, well, it's going to disappear tomorrow, and he'll say, oh, I never said that. Or Keith will insist that we've doctored the videotape.
Okay.
So this is Laura Glover. Once again, Laura Glover works for the city. She's a staff person, and she's their planning person. Here's what she's saying about these numbers.
The overall capital improvement program is showing at $108 million, and that's on table 6.12. Approximately 53 million of those items listed are dedicated or related to growth, which could be eligible then for the SDCs. And then again, under water distribution, it's 79.1 million. Capital improvement plan, table 5.4. 53 million is related to growth, available potentially to SDCs. And then our storm water system, and that's 46.5 million. So your call to action tonight, I do want to emphasize with a lot of material, this is not a deadline that you have to face tonight. We have plenty of time to review and discuss these matters, to go through to make sure the council, all your questions are answered. And but again, if you're ready to do with a motion then too, after your questions and discussion, we have
hang on just a minute. Hang on just a minute. Good Lord. On the board there is the suggestion of what they want the councilors to do. What you might do is say, I move to approve this. That is unbelievable to me. You know, I mean, they don't trust it. They go, you know, just in case you wondered what we want you to do, we put it on this great big display thing here so that you could see it. Does anybody have any questions?
Right. And they had a panel of people that approved this idea. And this panel of people was drawn from every walk of Rotary, every walk of the community, handpicked, of course, by the councilors and the staff. And guess what? They came up with an idea that fully backs what these guys want to do. Isn't that an amazing coincidence once again? Now you watch. They're going to insist that they trot these guys out. We've seen this happen with the commissioners also, so that you've got citizens, a citizen-driven initiative that's making the suggestions and really no relationship to the political goals or re-election goals of the current city councilors. We'll see. Okay. A little bit more from Laura Glover.
Do you have questions of staff at this time?
This time, before we get into questions, I think City Manager Aaron Kubik would like to just kind of walk through the process, how we got here and going forward.
So, thank you, Council President. So, Council, this is a lot of information that you have. As you can see, and some of the people in the audience might be able to see, the books that Council is having to review on these plans they're quite thick and lengthy and spirited reading. But it also represents about $250 million worth of future projects and planning associated with the city and city infrastructure. It's a very important issue.
You know, if it's such an important issue, I would really appreciate it if they'd come up with a more concrete number. 300,000 from the Courier. We can expect that. They're terrible with numbers. 250,000. It might be a little over 200,000. It might be 243,000. I don't know what it is, Mike. You know, once you get up to those high numbers, does it really make any difference? $1 million here, $1 million there. Whatever. I'm just being argumentative, I guess.
Well, it does to me.
Well, it does to me too, sir. So that's lovely.
And I just want you to know that you just recently received those big binders of important information. So if, as Laura mentioned, if council feels as though they need more time, this is not held by any quasi-judicial land use action or anything along those lines where you have a time frame where you have to make a decision.
Now on this, take a look here, just a second.
Therefore,
take a look here. Just look to the right of Riker, the last guy on the right. Look next to him. Do you see how many binders are next to this guy? Those are huge binders, and it looks like there's two of them.
Are there any women in those binders?
Yeah, that's what it is. Okay, here we go.
Well, it's, you never know.
That's right.
based on your conversation today, questions of staff, you do have the ability to continue to date certain, and there wouldn't be any real negative implications if we did continue this and you took a little more time on reviewing these master plans.
Well, that's nice.
You amend the comp plan. The only thing that would potentially affect would be the start time on our rate study. You know that after this is done and after you've reviewed these master plans and the capital improvement projects and this is all accomplished, one of the things council is very interested in is a rate study and determine what the appropriate rates are. How are we going to deal with this, and how do rates reflect on these new master plans? So that would maybe be delayed, but that would be the only thing. But we wouldn't want to get started on that anyhow until we know that we're certain on the plans that you have in front of you. So again, you do have the ability to continue to date certain.
Any questions of staff? Councilor Riker?
Laura, I don't know if this is appropriate at this time or actually when we get into the financing side of things, but I think it would be interesting to know the current baseline overhead each project would have or each area would have, but I'm not expecting the answer would be here tonight, to show our ability to pay for the capital improvements and then to relate what the new increase would be.
So that's a great question, Councilor Riker, and that's really the whole impetus behind the rate study is to help us look at what that.
It didn't look like Laura Glover was answering that because it wasn't Laura Glover. It was Jason Kennedy, who is their public works director.
It's going to do to the overall rate over that 30-year period. And remember that these costs are spread out over a 30-year period.
Yeah, don't forget
I think
this.
I just.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you know what? Listen, I'm paying not just a little, I'm paying a lot more on the water and sewer fees in Grants Pass because I have a commercial building, and that's just to cover $1 million to pay for jail beds. Now we're going to talk somewhere between $10 and $20 million a year that they're going to have to pay back on all this money that they're borrowing. Okay? That's going to mean a lot. It's going to cost a lot more for businesses. It's going to cost a lot more for property taxes. They're going to lump this unilaterally somehow, just like they did with the water and sewer fees. They're going to, because I mean, obviously they're making a decision here. They're not asking the people to put in on it. So these guys are the sole persons making this decision. And that is going to impact everybody. Why people are not freaking crazy about this right now and paying attention big time, all of a sudden it's going to happen and somebody's going to get a bill in the mail and you're going to have there's going to be 50 people showing up at the hospital with a heart attack all at one time.
All right, speaking of showing up at the heart attack, now everybody watch Mike when I tell him this little piece of news. Watch what Mike's expression is. They asked if anybody had any questions from the audience that could get up for 3 minutes and question them or make any comments. And this was a very important meeting where the initial kickoff of this whole thing and how much money it was going to cost. So do you have any guesses about how many people got up?
I suspect it's 2 or 3.
One person got up, just one. You're
Anybody
handling
we know?
well, Mike. Yes. Yeah. So she often will get up and say these kinds of things, and it was oh my gosh. She's involved in city politics and has been for a long time. Oh, her name just flew out of my. Nope, I almost had it and it flew away again. But someone that's got a lot of common sense, that had some really important questions to ask. But doggone it, she was the only one that said anything.
Oh, okay, bring it.
Any at all. Okay, we're probably going to get to that tomorrow because we're talking a lot about this meeting. Yes. She had some important things.
Are we talking Vivian Kirkpatrick by chance?
No, Arden McConnell. For city politics, pay attention to Arden McConnell.
Okay.
Right. Oh. Okay. Probably time for one more clip in this show because some people feel that they can't sit here for an hour. Okay. So.
That's right.
Not you.
Okay, Ken, then Roy, then Dennis.
Laura, thank you for the presentation. I have a question, and this is kind of premature, but it does tie together right now.
Just before he says his question, keep in mind that this guy will probably be running for re-election.
Ken Hannum, you mean?
Yeah.
When we take, like on your page, on the cost implication page, we take 108 million, we take 79 million, and we take 46 million. I'm just using rough figures. And then we're going to come back and we're going to start setting our SDCs or our rate study for this. If, in my opinion, if we try to take this all as one group, we won't be able to afford, nobody will be able to afford the SDC charges to build, and while growth might stop. Is there a way that maybe if when we get to the rate study, even though we have if we approve every one of these plans, that's what the goal is to do. So we're looking at that $200 and some million. If we were to project out 4 to 5 years when we do our rate study, could we would have a smaller SDC increase. Wouldn't that be more feasible rather than trying to look at this as $250 million, say? I mean, that's my concern, is that we already know that we've lowered those rates, we've promoted growth, but if we raise those SDCs back up to what they were 7, 8 years ago, or maybe longer, I've lost track of time being on council. We may be in the same boat again, and we're going to need the increase of revenue to help pay for these. So I really hope that that's one of the things we can adopt when we go to that part, if that's okay.
If that's okay.
Yeah, you know what? This is an interesting point, because what he's talking about is you can either make it up with growth, or you can make it up by raising your existing fees, and I think you're far better off making it up with growth. But the problem is that I think putting this burden on the city to begin with is a bad idea. I know that, listen, there may well be things that need to be done, but I don't think you need to spend $300 million. And listen, this $300 million that we're talking about, That's the water plant. And the stuff that they mentioned there tonight, wastewater treatment and all that kind of stuff. That adds up to 300 million.
It probably does.
You remember a month and a half, 2 months ago, they were talking about $100 million that they might throw on for this urban renewal project. That makes it 400 million. Before you know it, over a 30-year period here, we're spending well over $1 billion. Who are these people? Who are we that we're so stupid that we're going to allow this to happen?
And let Arden McConnell carry the entire burden of asking any questions. Just one person. Here's what I'd rather see. I'd rather see them concentrate on public safety. I'd like to see them concentrate on getting out of the way so that local businesses can prosper. I'd rather see them decide that we don't need to have a crazy growth. A little bit of growth is nice, but the reason that we have to have some of these things, according to the state or according to engineers from space, is that we're growing and growing and growing. So one solution for that is stop doing that and put all of your concentration.
I see you're married to that. You know what? I think, how is it that all of a sudden we hit a number and all of a sudden you got more people here, so more rain must be hitting the streets in this town and then has to be routed off. If you're trying to route off stormwater and you got more than 35,000 people, it's a problem. Really? How? Tell me how those things are correlated at all. Okay?
Right.
I mean, what are we talking about here? Okay,
but wait a minute. What's more like
water? Sewer system. I could see how that is tied to it somehow, but I don't believe that this cost that they're putting on says, well, you have to sacrifice your future well-being and growth and prosperity to these things that we absolutely have to do because some pointy-headed intellectual says we got to do it.
I'd rather be more prosperous with the size that we have, and what's more likely, governing ourselves and our size, or trying to make sure that Salem listens to us down here. What? Are you kidding me? That's not going to happen.
Yeah. I don't think growth is out of control. And I understand that there's a certain segment that loves this idea that you got to limit growth and in every way possible.
I'm not one of those people. I don't believe that growth is out of control. But somebody up north is saying, because you're a certain size, you're going to have to do this, 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 and this. And these guys have no problem spending the money on that. They have no problem doing that. They're not worried about the cost of things. They're just worried about their desires. And some of them are going to look better being in charge of a larger city. Okay. And all I'm saying is, since that is the rule right now, then stop growing so much. I mean, it's an easy solution. You just stop adding on the UGB, stop with the urban growth boundary thing, stop doing that. There are several things that have already happened with the county and the city where now they have to do this because we're a certain size. Remember that bit where we actually added on part of Jackson County to figure out what this organization was going to be? Oh man, that was nuts.
And I will agree with you in the respect that they could still add development and population, but it would be outside the city boundaries of Grants Pass, and that people would have their own sewer and well and all that kind of stuff, which doesn't require that you add 50 bazillion more dollars worth of stuff.
There you go.
That I'm okay with. I just think the problem is that they're married to this thing. They're not going to not do it.
Oh, no, they're going to do it. Of course they're going to do it.
And so I suggest that automatically is going to hamper growth over the next, 30 years. Who's going to want to come here when they find out what it costs them? And of course, us being a lawless hellhole is, just icing on the cake at that point.
Well, they don't have to follow any laws either. Remember how they can revoke your vote anytime that they want to? Yes, they did do a little talking, and we'll play it tomorrow night about how it's a good idea to talk to the public. Yeah, but what the public's going to say? Look, let's stop doing some of these things. They're not going to do that. What would they do?
This is a massive financial obligation. The county would never put this on us without a vote of the people. At least up to now, history has shown up to now. But the city is going to do that without your vote. You don't even have to say yes or no. They're going to ram it right down your throat or up your backside, one of the two. And
so who are two of the county commissioners very likely to be, Mike? And where did they come from? Straight from the city council. La la. Is that what's going to happen to us? I don't know. But past this prologue.
I'd like to know, listen, if I'm wrong now, and I assume that a great portion of SDCs are costs that you pay when you initially develop a piece of property, but some of them are maybe ongoing costs to business and commercial development and perhaps even residential development in the city. I'm not all that hip on the SDCs.
I don't think they're SDCs when it comes to residential, but I do know that some of these places, like these drive-through coffee places, in order to be a little bit larger, then they need to have planters, and they got to have a certain design of the thing, and it's costing them a ton of money to do that.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, it's not driving them completely out of business, but it is biting into their bottom line so that we can have such a wonderful looking place.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow. The overwhelming part about this is it's going to happen no matter what we say.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty serious. I think it's one of these things where this is going to be a tremendous burden over the next 20, 30 years, and who says that you get halfway through this and we don't have a whole nother set of requirements that we can't fulfill?
Like earthquake scenario, Cascadia earthquake scenario, and now system development charges and having little planters and stuff look ridiculous because we don't have anything that's working right.
Right, and then you add on this urban renewal plan that they have, and then the
new water collapses because of the earthquake.
Yes, and listen, all while this is going on, there is a growing unfunded PERS liability, and there are other unfunded liabilities, both state, local, and national, that are going on that are growing seemingly unobserved. And there's, the PERS liability that is growing locally here is deficit spending, and we're not paying any attention to it at all. There's a fairly good size unfunded liability both in the city and the county here, and that unfunded liability has to be paid by somebody. Ergo, deficit spending. In other words, they are spending more than they are taking in, and they're doing that right now. And you're going to add all of this to it. When all of a sudden we go sucking down a drain somewhere, then what? What do you do? Do the people of the county absorb this burden and just go, okay, we're resigned now to live in poverty so that we can assist you in paying this off? Or do they put their best shoes on and walk the hell out of here?
You got a football player, you've got some kind of rock star kind of person, a rapper, let's say, and they got a bunch of money coming in like the city council does now. And so they buy 7 brand new cars and replace them every year because they got to have a different car for every day of the week. They're not setting anything aside. How many times have we seen that? Famous people, they just blow all that money out there, and then bad times eventually come. I'm not saying you got to concentrate on bad times, but is it a good idea to be prepared for any of that? Or maybe, how about this radical idea? Invest your time and effort in building up the wealth of the community.
Hello. Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is that we're doing that kind of spending, and we don't even have the money that these rock stars and rap stars and sports stars have. We don't have that money. These people are delusional. They're completely delusional, and we're all going to pay for it. Listen, I'm going to be stuck with a commercial building sitting here in a town that nobody wants to come to and do business. You know, if the burden of this, unless you can show me, chart it out for me, people. What am I going to be paying you? What am I going to have to charge my tenants to be in my building over the next 30 years? And are they going to be down with that? Is their income going to be commensurately increased? I don't know about that.
Here you go, Mike. So if your son finally gets with the program, and has a child with some lucky girl, and then that child has a child, and that child has a child, by the time that you are a great grandparent, this plan may come to fruition. A lot of your audience will be gone.
Yeah, if I had to guess, will have been a whole bunch of other very expensive problems that go under the bridge before that takes place.
All we can do is bring it to you so that you can see for yourself what they're doing. At least Arden McConnell, one person, got up and talked. We're talking about it now, so at least you know something about it. They didn't make the big decision all at one meeting, although it sounded like they were being encouraged to. They are going to spread it out over time, but you've just got to think, if past is prologue, how much are they going to listen to you? Will they listen to you the same amount that they listened to you when most of us were saying we don't want a city sales tax? And they needed that sales tax because they don't have enough money, you see. Not enough money.
Right. Yeah. So I think this is a lot more money we're talking about.
It is a lot more money. That's correct.
Oh,
well,
Lord.
Okay. So there you go. Yeah, Mike.
Here's the crux of it, though. When this whole thing circles the drain, they can walk away. No sweat off of them at all. They don't have to, none of this follows them. They don't have to spend years in bankruptcy court. None of that. They just
we've seen three of them in the last few months that have just walked off the council. 3.
Yeah.
And one of them was forced out because she's doesn't even live in the ward. 4 people gone. There's a ward here in Grants Pass that has no representatives at all. And each of them has 2. There's one of them that has 0. Sure, they can walk away. Well, the good part is your mayor is running again, unopposed so far.
Well, you know what? This is the kind of thing that the citizens of Grants Pass have shown that they like. So, they are kind of getting what they asked for.
But see, I'm getting what they deserve, and that's not fair.
Yeah.
Well, on that cheery note, thanks for joining us this evening, and we will have more of the same tomorrow. Oh, does that mean I'm chasing away viewers? Gee, I hope not. You got to see some more of what they've said. It's pretty good. Thank you for joining us.